Welcome, one and all, to the official 2018 Officially Devin audience poll. Also, channel news and vlogging stuff. Video is not going to be very good. Now, the most important thing is that in this video I'm going to be talking through various potential concepts for a new NLP series to replace Fields of Mars, and you're going to get your chance to vote for the ones that you would be interested in seeing. So the link to that will be in the description. You just open it and click on the ones you want, and keep in mind that you can vote for multiple options, so you can go for all of the different ones you think you'd be interested in seeing, not just one, and we'll see what that ends up giving us in the end. So you can go ahead and do that right now if you like. That's all you really need to know. Or you can stick around to hear some more thoughts and details on each of the options that's on the list, and also a bit of generic news, some vlogging towards the end, and my hot take on the news of Three Kingdoms Total War. Now, probably this time next week I'll say the poll's over, so if it's more than a week since this has been released, then don't bother with the poll. And yes, I'll put up a video after this week to confirm what it is I'm going to go ahead with, which will probably be whatever gets the most votes here, but not necessarily. Like, if the thing I'd really prefer to do is a close second, it might be that, because I'm just a tyrant. This is a non-binding poll. We've got to make this very clear. So we'll just see what happens, essentially. Just before I go through the list, an important point to remember about this vote is that I will probably use the results of this vote to inform multiple new series choices. Yes. So things like what replaces Barbarian Masters may also be decided by this vote. So, basically keep in mind that while the thing that you're voting for might not necessarily be the next series that starts in a couple of weeks' time, it may actually be the one after that. Just because it didn't win, the losers aren't off the list, they're still on the list, and in fact the list is now smaller, so they're more likely to become the next series. It is not an elimination vote, just so you know, and can keep your hopes up for your favourite making it to the top of the list one day. So now, in really no particular order, are the options on the list. Option 1 is for the 13 colonies / early USA in a campaign against Britain in Empire Total War. Empire Total War is something I've seen a recent resurgence in requests for some reason, and it reminded me of back when I was doing Sinews of War in Empire Total War. I was thinking of doing a campaign for the American Revolution using various mods to make that more special. So I tried installing the American Revolution mod, which basically makes the campaign start in 1775, so you can do all that. But the problem is it limits you to playing just in the Americas, so a lot of the game is off limits. And I wanted to try an alternative history approach where the revolution isn't just about declaring independence, it's about these guys going to Europe to try and seize control of the British Empire, not just the Americas. So to do that story idea, I can instead play as the 13 colonies back in the regular start date, where you're just a protectorate of Britain, and just set up for that and then get it going at some point. So yeah, this is this option. There may be a better way to do it so I can specifically play as the USA somewhere in the American Revolution mod or somewhere in Darth mod. But that's the overall idea to this option. The only other thing I was thinking about doing in Empire would be one of the Indian factions, but I decided that's less gimmicky, so I'm less inclined to do it. But perhaps one day that's another option I'd be interested in doing at some point. The next option is Warhammer, or Warhammer 2 specifically, but I'm just calling it Warhammer. So in Warhammer I'd probably be playing as the High Elves, or maybe Bretonnia, just because I wanted to pick a faction that has a solid lore, and you can have characters that have character traits and can talk in a vaguely understandable and writable fashion. The Empire would probably fit into that category as well, but I don't really like their civil war at the beginning of the game. It kind of annoys me that you have to just fight all the other Empire factions and they don't like you and won't listen to you even though you're the Emperor or what have you. But anyway, so we're just throwing that out the window to make it easier as well. So it's probably going to be High Elves, and the thing to remember about a Warhammer campaign is that I don't know the lore in any detail. I'm probably not going to have time to learn it. So what I'll probably do in the end is just make up lore as I go along. So it will be a kind of alternate universe Warhammer where I decide what the elves think about things. Because I think that could be interesting, deciding what would a person who is immortal, like how would they react to these situations that have arisen rather than their lore reaction, which is basically that they're a bunch of bastards, I think. Maybe being immortal does make you a bastard, I'm not sure. Anyway, so the thing about Warhammer is I probably will need to wait for Tomb Kings. Well, I don't know actually, because basically in a couple of weeks they're releasing the Tomb Kings faction, so I guess it would make sense to have them be in the campaign, but then again, maybe it wouldn't make any difference because I could just not go to that part of the map. So, I don't know. I also don't want to buy it. That's what this is really about. I don't want to spend the money on it. I think that's what it's coming down to. So I might wait for Tomb Kings if Warhammer is the option that we go with. I was going to say go with. And I'll also be using Steel Faith Overhaul because people have recommended it and I haven't tried it, but they say it's better than vanilla. And that sounds good to me, so I'd like to try that. And as for the goal, the actual story of the campaign would probably have to revolve around fighting chaos, since the game will force that upon you at some point if you try and do something else. Like, chaos will show up and become really the only thing you can focus on. So in some way the story will have to be about fighting chaos, which is kind of a shame, but at least it's something easy to focus on that the game will facilitate. We'll see. Maybe we can throw in a story about fighting the vampires. That's what I'd like to see anyway. So the next option is Fall of the Samurai. This is another thing that had a decent number of requests for whatever reason. I was taking a look at the total Fall of the Samurai mod, which adds European factions onto the map, because I was thinking I could do something like the British Empire invades Japan and tries to take it over. Although what I found is that in terms of gameplay, that campaign is actually really easy, because you start in the mid-game essentially and then rapidly progress to having all the late-game really good units, and you just annihilate everyone immediately. So while I think there could be some challenge somewhere in it, it would probably be a very short series, which may indeed be a good thing, but I wasn't quite sure about going ahead with that. There's also the Master of Strategy mod for Fall of the Samurai, the same mod I'm using for Barbarian Masters. I haven't tried that, but that may make the campaign more interesting. In terms of just doing a normal campaign, I could just do it as a shogunate faction, like the Josei. I think the Josei was one that was requested specifically a few times. It might be too much Japan for you to have at the same time as Barbarian Masters, and it would be a tiny bit annoying to record since I'd have to constantly switch the mods around each time I switch between the series. But anyway, so this Fall of the Samurai vote option isn't actually particularly specific. It's a vote for either something interesting like Britain takes over Japan, or a normal campaign like Josei. They're just kind of bundled into one because I haven't researched it enough to decide which one it's going to be. So this is a do you want to see something in Fall of the Samurai option. Not very specific, I know, but if you do vote for this and you only really want to see one of those two options, do let me know in the comments. As you can do about any of these options, of course. Now, the next thing, Rome 2, Divide Et Impera. So this option is probably the most requested thing this year. I don't have any concrete proof of that. That's what it feels like, due to the recent Rome 2 updates. I've played around with the new version of Rome 2. I don't think what they changed really has a big impact on the gameplay, but that might just be because I tend to ignore the politics side of things, just like I did with Rome 2's old politics. But regardless, it was very much requested, and a lot of the requests were specifically for a Greek city-state or for Rome, but I'd rather not do those just because they're very similar to things that I've done before. I thought it would be more interesting to play as one of the Edge factions. So basically I'm going to have 3 Divide Et Impera options. The first 2 are in the regular Grand campaign. One is Texashila, the Hindu faction, who start with early access to elephants down in the bottom right hand corner of the map, basically invading Europe from India. Number 2 is the Scythians, the horse archer spam nomad guys, who start up at the top right. And for both of those factions, I'm not sure what their aim would be in the campaign. That could be worked out later. Just vote for them if you would be interested in seeing the gameplay from those factions. The third option is in the Imperator Augustus campaign, which is the one where Rome starts already owning half of the world. And for this one I wanted to try playing as the Marcomannos, which is a Germanic tribe which starts just on the north side of the Alps, and they'll have the aim of exploiting the Roman civil war to build themselves up and make the fall of Rome come early. That will probably be my particular favourite of the 3 Rome 2 options, just because it's a bit different and it could lead to something interesting by playing as a weaker faction, I think. And I haven't really done anything as a barbarian or Celtic style faction, so it's a bit different like that. I was also considering playing the Spartacus Rises mod, by the way, but for whatever reason it just crashes my PC whenever I try to run it, so never mind. Also note that I actually don't have any of the DLC campaigns except Hannibal at the Gates, which I had to buy to play Spartacus Rises back whenever it came out. So I actually can't really comment on whether I want to do anything in those. And I'm also quite poor and I don't actually like Rome 2. I'm too uninterested to actually buy them. So for this round of voting at least, those things have been discounted. So the next option is another slightly vague one. Something in Mount & Blade, and there are 2 things I've been looking at in Mount & Blade at the moment. The first one was something called Red Wars, which is basically a World War I/2 themed version of Mount & Blade, where it's set in like a 1920s alternate world. It's basically Warhammer, but 1920s edition and realistic edition. So it's kind of like a dark, gritty world where everyone's at war. There are like these weird proto-Nazis, and there's like a proto-Allies faction as well, which is like a combination of Canadians, Americans, British and French just like slammed together into the Albionics or something they're called. I just thought it was interesting. It was fun to ride around on a horse, shooting people with a handgun. It was a new take on Mount & Blade. That was pretty good. And you can get like machine guns and flamethrowers and stuff. So I thought just for the sake of some unique Mount & Blade gameplay, there could be something in there. And the story that would come out of it would probably be all sort of dark, communists take over the world, that sort of thing. And if you watch this as content, then communists taking over the world is pretty much my destiny. I'm destined to be at the forefront of that conflict, so that would make some sense. Now the other thing I was looking at, which is perhaps more ordinary, is the Bellum Imperii mod, which is Mount & Blade but at the height of the Roman Empire, so about the same setting as Imperator Augustus in fact. I haven't really played it, so I'm not sure what it's like, but I definitely think there's potential in there. You might note that basically all of these options, I've never tried them. Usually before making a series I would try it extensively to see if it's actually going to go anywhere. But this time there's no like chance to do that, since we need to get something going quickly and I haven't prepared anything in advance. Normally I'd have something I already wanted to do and have already tried to make it while I'm making the last series to help out. In this occasion we're just going to be winging it. We're going to be winging it. Anyway, so this Mount & Blade option is a vote for something in Mount & Blade. Those are the 2 things I'm looking at right now. It probably would end up being Bellum Imperii because that's more of a normal series, and then maybe the other one would end up being This Is Content, I'm not sure. But basically just leave a vote here if you're interested in Mount & Blade videos, that's all I'm really saying. By the way, I did also try, what's it called, Perisno, which is another mod that people were recommending, but it was a long time ago that I tried it, and I remember not liking it. I just don't remember why, so I can't explain why I don't like it. But I uninstalled it, which I haven't done with any of the other mods I've tried, so clearly I didn't like it for some reason. So that's why that's not on the list. Now the next thing on the actual list is XCOM. This is a regular suggestion for another not Total War NLP option, and I just got XCOM 2 for Christmas, so now's a very good time. I am somewhat struggling of how to format it and how it would work, because there's already quite a lot of narrative in the game, especially in XCOM 2 compared to XCOM 1. It's very like linear almost about like what's going on. So I'm not sure exactly what this would be, or even vaguely what this would be, but I am interested in trying to do something. And if you're also interested in seeing what could be done, then do leave a vote here. Now the final option on the list is the wildcard FPS options. This is another extremely unspecific thing. I'm just kind of putting this here to gauge interest. I would like at some point to go back to doing an NLP in a first-person sandbox type game like Fallout 4, Stalker, or Skyrim. You know, something where it's more about one character's experience. And yeah, so I'm just putting this option here. There's nothing specific, just to see if there's any interest in that. So leave a vote here if you'd be interested in seeing something like that. And don't leave a vote here if you want me to stick to the usual stuff. That's basically what that's for. Now, a couple of honourable mentions. That's the end of the list. Here are a few things that were on the list but got taken off, or are on my secondary list that I'm not using for this vote. Just so that people know they're on my radar. One thing I was definitely going to put on the list at first, and was first on the list in fact, was Medieval Kingdoms 1295, the mod for Age of Charlemagne. I was going to try that out, but my efforts to actually install it failed. It constantly crashed the installers, so I basically gave up because there isn't time to actually investigate it, as I mentioned. So maybe another time we can get something going with the effective Medieval Total War 3 proxy game. Another thing that could have been on the cards was the next Of Truth series, so the sequel to Tapestry of Truth. And yeah, I do still want to make that. If it was 100% up to me, I would scrap everything and just make that. But it's not really worth doing it because it's harder to make than a normal series and not as popular. So from a purely meta standpoint, I'm not going to be doing that at the moment. But I'm going to try and find an excuse to sneakily do it at some point. That's basically where that stands. Now, another thing that people often ask about are the paradox strategy games. People are always saying this would be great for an NLP, this would be great. But here's my take on that. That's my take on this. Basically, I suck at them. And it seems like it takes a very long time and a lot of money to actually get to the point when the game is enjoyable to play and you can play it competently. So basically all of my experiences thus far just haven't really amounted to anything, and multiple times I've tried to play them, especially Crusader Kings 2, where I like just starting again over and over and going, what is this game? You basically have to go and research what you're supposed to be doing and how to play it, and ain't nobody got time for that, at least I don't. So since I wasn't explicitly interested in playing the games, it's very hard to force myself to do it when it's actually so difficult to play it. They're not very player friendly. I was interested actually in playing Hearts of Iron 4, I just don't have it. That one looks a little bit easier to understand. And it seems like you get a more clear objective, like there's more of an explicit game in there to play. But yeah, that'd be fun to make like a fake World War II documentary, something like that. That could be interesting. And I was sort of interested in Stellaris as well, since I still haven't done anything sci-fi-ish. But again, I just don't have it. And I suspect I probably actually wouldn't like it. I think that because I played Endless Space, which is kind of in a similar genre, and I really hated it because I just thought it missed so much potential. I'm like that with games. I'm like, it could have been so much better. I hate it, which is probably one of the reasons I don't like Rome 2. Anyway, so for Paradox games, there's nothing on the list for now. I'm not ruling them out completely, of course. It's just that I'm not in a position to do it at the moment for various reasons. I need to be richer and spend a lot of time to actually make something with them. Now, the last honourable mention, I was going to have Medieval 2 Total War playing with the Rise of Three Kingdoms mod as one of the main options on today's vote, but I've now had to take it off because CA have announced there's actually going to be an official Three Kingdoms game. So I thought, well, we might as well wait for that now. We don't want to waste all of our Three Kingdoms juice on this one. I mean, I actually probably could do both, thinking about it. I don't know. Well, filming in Medieval 2 is annoying, so I would rather do it in a new game. It would definitely look better. Whether it would be any better, we'll just have to wait and see. I should probably now make my official set of statements and hot take on the matter of this new game. So here's the hot take. Back before Shogun 2 came out, so like around the time of Empire basically, there were 3 Total War games that I wanted to see. They were Shogun 2, Rome 2, and Three Kingdoms. So I skipped playing Napoleon Total War because it wasn't any of the 3 things. And I really liked Shogun 2 and Fall of the Samurai. and then I hated Rome 2, and that was pretty much the end of my Total War dream. It was all over then, and I haven't really liked any of the games after that, because they're all based on Rome 2, they're all the same game. But now, hope burns again, for the third prophesized game is coming. This is my game, in theory. This is it. This is what I'm looking to gaming as an industry to give me. So I might sound a bit hyped there, but I am old, and I am wise. When I watched the trailer, for the first 30 seconds I was like, yeah! And the next 30 seconds I was like, okay. And the rest of it I was like, oh. Oh, okay. It's a mobile game. But then, no, it seemed to be advertised as an actual game. And I remembered, oh yeah, like CA has like 200 artists, but only 20 developers and designers. So this really can't be anything but a reskin of Warhammer, considering how much other stuff they're pumping out at the moment. And the focus on the trailer on heroes would seem to indicate that also. So with that, I'm now kind of wishing that this game would be made like later in history, after a resurgence of the strategy or nation building parts of Total War. Like, to me, part of the Three Kingdoms lore is like the battling of wits between various genius strategists of the era, with like crazy feats of engineering, advanced battlefield maneuvers, and the deft use of tactical slam poetry. It's all just like, it's all kind of like highbrow, or higher brow than Warhammer style. And, you know, I think they're probably going for a more Warhammer come Dynasty Warriors dumb fun approach, which may indeed still be good, but it might just end up being another Rome 2 for me. We shall see. And literally, it may just be like Rome 2, in that Warhammer is Rome 2, but simplified. Anyway, like, I don't know what my real thoughts are. Do you remember when Empire came out? And it had loads of like brand new features that were relevant to the setting and made like the whole strategy layer of the game like totally different. Like you had all the places outside of towns you could capture, and you had like naval battles and trade nodes all over the world, and the weird, very poorly explained politics systems. There was stuff. There was new stuff in the game compared to the old game, and now there's just less stuff in the games, and I want this to not be a continuation of that. I want a new game. I want new Empire Total War. I want ambition. I want it to be good. I know they kind of broke Empire Total War, but CA is way bigger than it was then, and they've got way more money. They've been selling that DLC on 1000% markup for like a year now. They've been making tons of money. They could easily make a good game. They could make a good game. I promised you that. But they don't need to. And that's what I'm worried about. Like, they can just reskin Warhammer. The Chinese gaming market's the size of CA's like Western market easily. It's the same. It doesn't have to be good. They could make twice as much money for less budget if they just reskin Warhammer. So it's like, why wouldn't they? It doesn't have to be good. So maybe it won't be. But you know, I'm not going to go off on a tirade about all the millions of features I'd like to see, and I'm never going to, because it would only foster disappointment in myself and all that dream along with me. So, for now, I will just pray to Kong Ming that I am wrong about all this, and remember that old piece of Chinese wisdom: do not pursue Lu Bu. I think we all need to take that to heart. Now back to talking about the videos that I make. What videos do I make these days? One thing I was thinking about with this new series is that I could try using a more narrative style with an entirely or like mostly scripted commentary. Thinking like, you know, vaguely like a fake documentary. So like I did for the recent ending of Fields of Mars, where it's all a sort of scripted narrative, only the episodes would have to be much shorter so I could still make them in time, and perhaps less music or editing or what have you. Now, I don't know if I want to try this with the next series. It kind of has pros and cons. I think it's more interesting on its own to have a video like that, but it does mean you can't have as much stuff focused on characters, because it's more about talking about what happened. You know, it's like reading one of the old Roman history books where it's just a long description of events with the occasional quote. And the other thing is that it actually takes away a lot of gameplay commentary, and people may actually want the gameplay commentary, like commentary on the tactics being used from the perspective of a player of the game, where like things you do in the game, you do them for reasons because it's min-maxing the game, not because there's an actual tactical reason to do it. Whereas when you describe it in a narrative sense, you have to say, like, why are they doing this strange tactic that doesn't work in real life, you know? Anyway, so that's an idea that I've been throwing around. I was thinking maybe I could like make a mini NLP of something to test it out. In fact, you know what I already did? It was that Rise of Arakamani thing. It was basically that, but I was thinking of trying that for a bigger series. I don't know. I don't even know why I bring this up. If you have any particular thoughts on that, let me know. I think that's all about the upcoming videos. This is a video round where I don't really know what I'm doing, so it's going to be very influenced by what the result of the vote is, and then I'll try and come up with something decent based on people's opinions. So do vote if you haven't already, and we'll probably come back next week to discuss what's going to actually happen as a result of it. So that's that. Now while I'm here, a tiny bit of channel news. It's the channel news winter 2018. Yeah, so thank you very much for 16,000 subscribers. That's the first thing to mention. I beat my 2017 subscriber goal of having 15,000 by the end, so that's very good indeed. Probably. Now, I don't have a specific 2018 goal to replace it, but I suppose going for something greater than 20,000 would be the reasonable thing to do. Maybe even 25,000, who knows? So thanks to everyone who has subscribed during the last period of time since I last said that, and a very special thanks, even more so, to everyone donating on Patreon, because that's very much making everything happen as it is now. So thank you to all of you from me and from the audience on their behalf, who also benefit from your generosity. Another exciting piece of news, for me at least, was that in December 2017, it was the first profitable month for OffiD operations. After 2 years of running the channel nearly full time now, it actually broke even once for 1 month, and that is quite incredible. So break open your bootleg champagne and have a tiny sip before putting the rest back in the bottle on my behalf. Okay? Will 2018 end up being the first break-even year? Probably not, and not if YouTube can help it, but you never know. Also, I'd like to apologise to anyone who is annoyed at the fact that I constantly post "this is content." I'm still considering making that stuff its own channel, since that would be a lot neater. And I don't really know whether doing it actually helps this channel. It supposedly makes the channel, more analytics friendly, because it means it constantly gets views and watch minutes. And those videos are the most efficient thing to create. So like from a meta perspective, those are my best videos because they get the most views per amount of work I have to do to get those views. Those are the things that I should be doing entirely as a professional YouTuber. So it kind of makes me feel good to do it, because I'm like, yeah, this is a good use of time. It feels efficient. But yeah, I don't know how much it actually helps, and having videos that are like breaking the tone of the channel may not help, and I just don't really know. But anyway, for now at least, plenty more of that rubbish to come, and hopefully some of you will be pleased to hear this. I like those videos, at least. I watch them, so that's something. Now, I'd like to give a shout out to the OfficiallyDevin TV Tropes page. Yes, you can now log OffiD's use of tropes on the official database of tropes. TV tropes. So yeah, it's there. I'll link it in the description, etc. You can take a look and read the work that's already been done, and you can even add to it yourself. Special thanks to Conscript David for setting that up. And yes, special thanks to anyone else who goes and expands that so that everyone can know the glory of Officially Devin's trope prowess. I do need to get some more tropes going. I'll try and be more repetitive in the future. Another shout out I like to make is to Kings and Generals. You may have seen me on that channel, and I'm using the word seen very, very loosely. Heard would be more specific. Because yes, I've been doing narrations for that channel. I'll link that in the description if I can remember. Or you can just write Kings and Generals into your YouTube search bar, and you'll most likely find it. So it's basically historical documentaries read by yours truly. So if you love my voice and you love history, they are now combined with loads of beautiful animations and stuff on their videos at the Kings and Generals channel. So if you haven't been there, go take a look. That's all I am saying. That's probably it for channel news. Maybe we'll come out with some more news in the future. We're going to make some more videos in 2018. Let's make it a fine year for narratively Let's Played videos. I'm sure they're all going to be great. And yeah, thank you for being here for this meeting of the Officially Devin stakeholders. And yeah, meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned. So don't forget to vote. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And I will see you next quarter for more rambling, maybe some more voting on something. It'll be great. Let's make 2018 the best year of all time for niche Let's Play videos. I think it's about time these videos had a good year. I'll see you in the next one.